right, now we're going to do lesson 90. Lesson 90 is more word problems with two statements of equality. With these, we're not going to have a value, a number statement and a value statement. These here we're just going to read the word problem and come up with two separate equations. Remembering again, if we have two variables, we have to have two equations. So let's look at example 90.1. It says, together Charles and Nell picked 92 quarts of berries. If Charles picked 6 more quarts than Nell picked, how many quarts did each pick? So we're going to let NC equal the number that Charles picked. And it says together Charles and Nell picked 92. So we're going to do number of Charles picked plus the number that Nell picked is equal to 92. And then the second statement we're going to get, it says if Charles picked 6 more quarts than Nell. Again, like we did with the last lesson, I like to set these two equal to each other and then figure out which side I have to add to or subtract to. I generally like to add because you make fewer mistakes with the sign. Sometimes if you have a negative sign and you have to multiply it, you can lose that negative sign. So it says here, if Charles picked 6 more quarts than Nell, so Charles picked more than what Nell did, so we're going to have to add 6 over here so that the number that was over here equals the number that Charles picked. And now, with this here, I have two equations. This is already solved for one variable, so in this case, I think I would use substitution. So I would just substitute this, which is equal to NC, wherever there was an NC there. So I'm going to put that in where the NC was. So I have NN plus 6, because that was NC, plus now the rest of this, NN equals 92. Then I'm going to combine my like terms. I have NN plus NN, so that's going to be 2NN plus 6 is equal to 92. And then I'm trying to get this variable by itself, so I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. And I get 2NN is equal to 86. These are being multiplied, so I'm going to divide. And I get NN is equal to 43. Then to solve for NC, I can put it into this equation. That's probably even easier. So NC is equal to NN, which was 43, plus 6. So NC is going to be equal to 49. So that's example 90.1. There you go. And now we're going to look at example 90.2. 90.2 says the number of boys in Sarah's class exceeded the number of girls by 7. So when we read that, we want to say, were there more boys or more girls? Well, it says the number of boys exceeded the number of girls by 7. So there's more boys, so we're going to add the 7 over here to make this equation equal. So what's over here is equal to what's over here. If there were a total of 29 pupils, so that means the number of boys plus the number of girls is equal to 29. Again, I think I would use substitution for this because this variable is already solved. For. This is what it's equal to. So where there's an NB, I'm going to put this value in. So here's NB. I'm going to change it to this because these are equal to each other, so I can just substitute that in and then I write the rest of it. Number of girls is equal to 29. Combine my like terms. So I have 2 number of girls plus 7 equals 29. Solve for the variable, try and get it by itself. These are being added, so I'm going to use the inverse operation and subtract. 2 number of girls is equal to 22. Divide each side by 2, so the number of girls is equal to 11. And then we know here the number of boys is equal to the number of girls plus 7, so the number of boys is equal to 18. All right, now we'll look at, we've got lots of examples in this lesson. So now we'll look at example 90.3. Philip cut a 38-meter rope into 2 pieces. All right, so knowing that already, we know if he had 38 meters and he cut it into 2 pieces, if they're not the same length, one's going to be longer and one's going to be shorter. But I know if I added those 2 together, we're going to get back to 38 again. All right, so the long piece plus the short piece equals 38. It says the long piece was 9 meters longer than the short piece. All right, so again, I'm going to set these equal to each other. This one's longer, so to make this equation equal, I'm going to have to add 9 to the short piece. What were the lengths of the 2? Again, here, this is already solved for a variable. I think I'll use substitution again. So wherever there's an L, I'm going to put this value in. So I have S plus 9, that's for that, plus S is equal to 38. Again, add like terms. So I have 2S, try and make that look like an S and not a 5, is equal to 38. Solve for the variable, so I subtract 9 from both sides. 2S is equal to 29. Divide both sides by 2. So the short piece is equal to 14.5. To solve for the long, I would substitute here, 14.5 plus 9. The long piece is going to be 23.5. So that's example 90.3. Now we'll move on to example 90.4. It says the sum of 2 numbers is 72. So again, you can use whatever you want. I think I would use large and small just to distinguish between the 2 numbers again. The sum of 2 numbers is 72. The difference of the 2 numbers is 26. So difference means subtraction. It's a positive number, so I know I must be taking the large and subtracting the small. And that was equal to 26. Now in this case, I think I'm going to use elimination because my s's are already going to cancel each other out. So these cancel. I'm left with 2L is equal to 98. Divide by 2 on both sides. The large number is going to be equal to 49. If the large is equal to 49, then we have 49 plus the small equals 72. So we know we're going to subtract 49 from 72. And the small would be equal to 23. All right. So the large is 49 and the small is 23. And then you can always check your answers and make sure that they make sense. Well, this plus this equals 72. This minus this is equal to 26. All right. Example 90.5 says the greater of two numbers is 16 greater than the smaller. So here we go. Again, we have a larger number and a smaller number. This one is greater by 16, so I'd have to add 16 here to make these two, this equation equal to each other, both sides equal to each other. When added together, so the large plus the small, when added together, their sum is 4 less than 3 times the smaller. And here I just got this equation by reading through that sentence and just writing down exactly what it says. It says when added together, their sum is, that means equal, 4 less than 3 times the smaller. All right, so here again, this is already solved, so I think I would just use substitution. So where my L is, I'm going to put in S plus 16. So I have S plus 16 plus S is equal to 3S minus 4. So I have 2S plus 16 is equal to 3s minus 4. I think I will subtract 2s from both sides. That gets my variables over to this side, so I want my constants over here. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And I get s is equal to 20. Well, if s is equal to 20, the large is going to be 20 plus 16. So the large is equal to 36. That's example 90.5, and I think there's one more on the next page. 90.6. It says the ratio of two numbers. Remember ratio? Ratios we can write as fractions, the numerator over denominator. So I think that's what I would do here too. I would say the numerator over the denominator, the ratio of two numbers is 5 to 4. And we're going to use this to cross multiply and get an equation. So then we would have 5d is equal to 4n. So that's one of my equations. And then we're going to read the rest of the problem. It says the sum of the numbers is 63. Well, the sum of these two numbers, this one plus this one, is equal to 63. Again, I probably would use substitution, but we have to solve this equation for one of the variables. I'm going to solve for n. So I get n is equal to 63 minus d. So wherever I have an n, I'm going to put this in. So I have 5d is equal to 4 times n. Well, n is 63 minus d. We'll distribute here. So we get 5d is equal to, what is this? 12, carry 1, 24, 25 minus 4d. Then we solve, get the variables on one side and the constants on the other. So I adjust a variable over here. I'm going to move that over. I get 9d is equal to 252. Divide both sides by 9. So the d is equal to, let's see, 9 goes into 25 twice. 18, there's 7 left over. 9 goes into 72 8 times. So now we can solve for n. Actually, we can solve for n right here if we wanted to. N is equal to 63 minus d, which is 28. And we get 5. That's a 5 minus, so we get 35. Or we could have put it in here, and then we would have had n over 28 equals 5 over 4. And we could see that we multiplied this by 7, so we would multiply that by 7, and again, n would be equal to 35. But we get the same answer either way. Okay, so go ahead and stop the video. Try and do the practice on your own, and then come back and check your answers. Okay, here we go with the practice. Here is the practice for lesson 90. A says the sum of two numbers is 98. So let's do the large plus the small is equal to 98. The difference of the same two numbers is 40. So again, the difference, meaning subtraction, is 40. Here, because I did large and small, and this is a positive number, I know it has to be the large minus the small. This is set up nicely for elimination again. So the s's will cancel out. We're just simply left with 2l equals 138. Solve for L by dividing both sides by 2. So L is equal to, 2 goes into 13 6 times, 1 left over. 2 goes into that, 29. So the large is equal to 69. So we can do, let's see, 69 plus the small is equal to 98. So the small is equal to 9, it becomes an 8, 29. So the large is 69 and the small is 29. Okay, now we'll do practice B. Practice B says the number of girls in Marvin's class exceeded the number of boys by 11. So again, there's more girls than boys. Okay, so because there's more girls than boys, we're going to have to add the 11 on this side. If there were 37 pupils in the class, so the number of girls plus the number of boys is going to be equal to 37. Again, this one's already solved for this variable, so we'll just use substitution. Put this in where NG is. So we get NB plus 11, and then we just write out the rest of this that's left. Combine like terms on this side. So 2NB plus 11 equals 37. We want to get the variable by itself, so we're going to move this over here by subtracting 11 from both sides because it was added. We do the inverse operation and subtract. 2NB is equal to 26. Divide both sides by 2. So the number of boys is equal to 13. If the number of boys is 13, number of girls is the number of boys plus 11. So the number of girls would be equal to 24. And we'll check that, and that is correct. So that's it for that one. All right, I hope you did well.